Hey everybody, it's Zazu Cioce, PT here with your Movement Minute for Varsity House. So a lot of us have the Varsity House virtual 5K coming up, and I wanted to hop on and talk about the foot ankle complex. I usually tell my clients like the foot is basically just like a bag of bones. It has so many bones and they're all basically held together by these ligaments and by these muscles, both located inside and outside of the this specific anatomical area, which I always think is pretty cool because when we zoom into the foot, if we've got like foot pain or plantar fasciitis, stuff like that, we think, okay, like it has to be in here, but actually there's a lot of tendons that run through the ankle from the lower leg that actually create these arches and help support all of these joints. So there's so much I could talk about, but I think today, and especially because a lot of us are going to be walking or running, I really want to talk about the arch support that we have in our foot. So when we talk about our arches, we actually have 3 arches in our foot. And so again, Steve is here assisting, and we are looking at the bottom of the foot. So this is looking at the foot from the inside. We're going to look at the bottom of the foot, and what I like to call basically the stability that you're trying to move from within the foot is the tripod. So can you basically keep your foot in a tripod position? So what I mean by tripod is that the 3 arches basically have 3 contact points that you should be able to maintain contact with on the ground, and everything else should be supported in an arch, not necessarily on the ground. So that's where we kind of start to talk about pronation, supination of the foot, flat feet, or high arches are other terms for them. So the tripod, you've got one part of the tripod is here at the calcaneus, also just called the heel. And then we've got the other 2 parts of the tripod are on the outside or the base of the 5th metatarsal, and then at the base of the 1st metatarsal, which is at the base of your big toe. So those 3 points are 3 points that you basically kind of utilize to help propel you forward and for the function of your foot. So what happens to most of us in modern society here is that we have great shoes with lots of support, but just like anywhere else in the body, a muscle that you don't use gets weak. And so that's why we see a lot of people have what we call overpronation or flat feet, where the arch basically is not being held up and now is flat. So you should be able, even when you don't have any weight through your arches, so if you're laying with your feet up, you should still have somewhat of a natural arch. And then also when you go to stand or put some weight through that arch, you shouldn't just collapse and be flat. If that's the case, then you have flat feet. And having flat feet or high arches also can be genetically influenced, so that is something to keep in mind. It's not always so black and white as to, okay, I'm going to do all these exercises and I'm going to have amazing high arches. Sometimes it is genetic, but there are certainly muscles that we can access to help improve the internal support that we use every day through the foot. So again, though, kind of what I want you guys to think about is, and become aware of is, what are you doing with your tripod when you're standing throughout the day? If you're getting up, if you're walking, when you're running, do you feel like your whole foot is collapsing down and flattening, or do you feel like you're able to maintain rigidity through the arches? So kind of zooming into the arches again, you have 3 arches. So you've got an arch that comes through here. So again, from the heel bone all the way to the outside. You've got another arch that goes to the inside called the medial arch, medial longitudinal arch, that goes from here to up here to the base of the big toe. And then the 3rd arch is going to be your transverse arch, which goes from the base of the big toe to the base of the little toe. And so those are 3 arches that basically help maintain the support through your foot. And so I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do to really help maintain natural, or should I say, intrinsic, or, arch support through your own feet. So certainly if you have very flat feet, I do have pronation issues that I do wear orthotics for, and a lot of us do, but I do try to work in some arch exercises because that really helps a lot. And again, basically wearing, modern day shoes basically just down trains all of our muscles within our foot. And so we've got to do something to combat that. And it's kind of similar to the whole thought of, we're sitting all day, especially now. And so now we're getting muscle imbalances and issues in areas where we didn't have them because we were using them before in our normal everyday lives. So once you stop using things really do stop working as well as they should be, just because you're down training them. Life really is like, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So we're trying to, keep us fit and keep ourselves as healthy as we can. And it all starts at the feet. Okay, so we are going to start in a half kneeling position. That way we can control how much pressure we can put through the foot. So you're going to start with some pressure through the foot, but not 100%. We are basically going to try to create an arch in our foot while maintaining the tripod. So those 3 points of contact that we talked about. So the base of the big toe, the base of the little toe, and the heel. You are basically going from a long foot position to a short foot position. Once you've been able to create that arch and maintain those points of contact, we're going to add mobility to it, and we are going to kind of lean forward and back, but still trying to maintain that tripod, because that is what mimics what we do with walking. So very great to work on, and we're going to progress it even more. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work in big toe mobility, because while we are holding on to that tripod position, that middle foot should be stable, but guess what? That big toe joint should be mobile, just like the ankle joint should also be mobile. So a lot of times we have restrictions, and so we'll see our toes kind of curling over when we're trying to create that arch. You want to try to keep the foot nice and flat and try to maintain those 3 points of contact while you are mobilizing and moving through the big toe. All right, so something you can do to try to rev up the system, especially if you're having trouble with it, is basically get a ball, anything you've got around, and move it really quickly around all of the muscles of the arches. What that does is that accesses the neurological system and helps with that motor control, and basically just how you're able to control and move those little muscles. It just gives that neurological input before you try to, do the exercise again. Sometimes it just helps to be able to connect the brain to that area to be able to get better performance out of this exercise. So going back to creating the short foot and then moving the toe. And if you find that your big toe just doesn't want to move, okay, then put a little ball underneath that toe and move forward. And so that's a really good stretch, but also a good just mobility exercise for that big toe, which should be mobile. Remember, arch is stable, big foot should be mobile. So then you can stand and take it up a notch and put more pressure through the leg that you're working on. So again, you can do the big toe mobility work in standing. That just gets you more pressure. You could also use a lacrosse ball or any other type of ball and just do some general soft tissue work. So when you're just doing general soft tissue work, like if your arches are tired or your feet are sore, you want to think about deeper pressure and slower movement versus when you're revving something up, you are trying to move very quickly, and because you're trying to access that neurological system. So if, again, your arches are sore or you're having some pain, you can also get, just any little tool. You can even use your hands and just work into those soft tissue of those arches. And then lastly, if you are having some issues with that big toe mobility, you can just stabilize at the base of the big toe and then just very gently move your big toe through its extension range of motion. So looking at the front view here, you can kind of see I'm going through more pronation to supination. So this is a great exercise in and of itself, just going from pronation to supination. But remember, what we're trying to do is maintain those 3 points of contact on the ground. So again, just looking from the front, 3 points of contact, moving the toe up and down, and then going from a kneeling, which is easier, to a standing, which is harder, and then doing it all over again. And so again, you want to just move the big toe up. If you're finding all of the toes are coming up, you want to try to control just the big toe. That's going to be your goal. So again, moving forward in this position, trying to maintain that arch. So again, from a side view, long foot to short foot. Once you get that arch, try to keep that arch, try to keep that tripod, and then start to shift your weight back and forth through the ankle over that tripod that you are trying to keep for your arches. All right, everybody, that was your movement minute for today. Everybody doing the 5K, good luck.